Now back into the content here, I'd like to introduce to the stage one of my all-time favorites, CISO from Trinseo, noted author, and much, much more. Tammy Klotz, take it away.
It's a pleasure to be here, everybody, and I look forward to our 10-minute lightning talk, which will go like that. I'm actually going to put my timer on so I do not go over on Keith asked me to come talk to you today about the ROI on cybersecurity. Oh yeah, no, the ROI on AI for cybersecurity, right? So I'm still continuing to talk about the ROI of cyber, right? So that's immediately where my head went, and kind of phrase the preface of the conversation today in the context of that, and then how does AI supplement or detriment the ROI, because there's two sides of the equation in the world of cyber. So what if we do nothing? If we do nothing from a cyber perspective, we're going to get breached, we're going to get hacked, we're going to be a victim of ransomware, and then who cares? So what, right? Right. Well, what we need to think about is the impact on the businesses that we support and that we protect, and the impact of that. We don't do anything, we're going to lose customers, we're going to disrupt the supply chain. Our reputation as an organization is going to be damaged. And there's all sorts of things that we need to do to recover from the impact of those types of events. We ultimately will impact the business operations of our organizations if we do nothing. So we need to get people to listen to us, and we need to talk to them about how we want them to invest in all of these tools that we're going to put in place to protect them, to protect our organization. Those of you who've heard me speak before, you know, one of the things I always say is cyber is not an IT problem, it's a business problem. Turn that on its head, and we talk about how cyber can be an enabler from the business, how it can be a differentiator when we're working with our competitors, depending upon what our program looks like, how solid our controls are, and how we can protect the supply chain maybe than some of the others that potentially could be vying for our customers' businesses. We need to talk in terms of risks. So where's the cost? What's the cost impact? Where are the savings? What are we going to bring to the organization? What risks are we avoiding? That's probably one of the biggest challenges when it comes to talking about cyber and the ROI of investing in the tools that we need to protect the organization. We always have to talk about in what ifs. What if this happens? What if there is an email attack, an email phish that gets through and somebody clicks on it? What's the cost of recovering from something like that? What's the downstream impact from the business? So we have to talk about it. If we're going to spend $200,000 on a tool that we're going to bring into the organization, what is that potentially going to prevent for us? So if you think about all of that and contextualize that with regards to how we talk about the ROI of cyber, now we have to bolt on to that. What is the ROI of cyber with AI? And I want you to think about it in kind of three different perspectives, because there's what my team and my team's job is to protect the organization, so the defender in that situation. But at the same time, we also have to make sure that we're thinking about and remembering what the attacker is doing and how they're using AI to make our lives more difficult, because they're continuing to use all of the new technologies to advance themselves, which is ultimately a potential threat for all of us. The third piece of it, a different perspective, is we have the insider within the organization. All of the folks in the business who want to use the new technology to, try new innovative ways to make decisions, to collect data, to automate business processes. They want to use the new technology. So then I have to come along and say, okay, we can do that. Let's talk about how we do that securely. So now that's a whole nother element that we need to bring into the conversation, because in the business, they're looking at their ROI of how they introduce a new technology. I then have to counter is not the right word, but have a follow-on conversation with them. How do we do that securely? Because that's where the challenges actually come in. So I'm used to talking about, cyber is more than a cost center. It's, just an expense, it's a commodity, et cetera. So now I got to kind of extend that a little bit, because if you read and see all the quotes, it's now AI. How do we make that not just a cost center? We've heard great stories today about successes where people are using AI to better their businesses, improve their work processes, et cetera. So we need to think about it as, how does AI augment what we're doing from an organizational perspective, from a cyber perspective? Two really quick anecdotes that I'll share with you, because today's all about AI. Almost everywhere we go now and we listen and we hear people talk, AI is usually the topic of conversation. So a quote from an event I was at last week was, AI is like a drinking game. Every time somebody say it, take a drink. Right? And it would not be in a good place if we followed that. The other one happened a couple of months ago at a different event I was at, and we were talking, it was a legal event. And there was a lawyer up on stage, and he said, he's like, I get these questions, is AI going to replace all the lawyers? And he, I believe, had a very profound answer to that. And he's like, it's not going to replace lawyers. It's going to replace lawyers who don't use it. And I think that is profound, because I could say the same thing about the folks on my team, the analysts, the engineers, who, if we don't embrace AI as part of our return on investment, we're going to be behind the times. The vendors, the suppliers, the partners that we work, if they're not embracing that as part of their solution set, they're also going to be behind the times. So we need to take that into consideration. So how does it help from justifying the return on investment in a cyber tool? It potentially allows us to do things faster, whether that's incident response, whether that's detection, anomaly detection, because it's learning and it's identifying things that are happening that maybe weren't happening before or are just odd, and calling alerts that the human is not necessarily going to see by looking on a variety of screens. And you can miss something. We're humans. It happens, right? We can automate tasks. We can help us reduce false positives. And from a cybersecurity defense perspective, this is stuff that we do every single day. So AI is just another way for us to do it and how we're going to do it. And that's where we need to bring that into the conversations that we actually have. So ultimately, I think it was Johnny earlier that said we need to be able to do things, or AI will help us do things that better, faster, smarter, cheaper. Yeah, that's all true, right? And when you take that in the context of cyber, it's allowing you to apply and bring that technology into the tools that you use to protect your organizations, so that you can stay one step ahead and hopefully prevent the attack from happening instead of having to respond to it on the other side.
All right.